Hello there, welcome to Blitz Transmissions. I'm Tommy, and in this video we're going to be covering some predictions for a very unprecedented announcement that was made this past week, that being the announcement of another Hasbro Star Wars fan stream. Now the reason I say this is unprecedented is because as long as I've been collecting and they've been doing these fan streams, I can't remember a time that there were ever two fan streams in the same month. If you'll remember, you could also check out my video from the beginning of the month where we had another Hasbro Star Wars fan stream. I think it was May 1st for May the 4th Be With You, and here we are not even 4 weeks later with yet another Hasbro Star Wars fan stream. My first inclination is that a lot of the reveals will be very Mandalorian and Grogu heavy, as I think that part of the reason they chose this particular timing is because obviously this past weekend The Mandalorian and Grogu released in theaters. If this is the case, and if this ends up being true, this will be some pretty smart marketing from the Hasbro Star Wars team. Hopefully we'll get some cool reveals for the second wave of releases from this movie. A quick plug before we get into the predictions for this fan stream: I will be live streaming here on Blitz Transmissions while the fan stream is going on, starting at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, May 26th. I will be joined by my good friend Alexander Storm from Shadowknows Network, and we will be doing our thing, reacting to all of the reveals, and then having a discussion and a little bit of a recap as soon as the fan stream concludes. This is a fun tradition that I've been doing here on Blitz Transmissions, and you guys really seem to love these streams. So again, make sure you check out the channel. The stream is already set up as of the release of this video. Hit that little bell notification so you don't miss out on all the fun. So obviously you clicked on this video because it is a predictions video. So let's jump right in. We're going to cover both Black Series and Vintage Collection in this video. Of course, we're going to kick things off with the Black Series. So my first few predictions for the Black Series are going to be obviously focused on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. My first prediction is going to be an army builder, and I will say there are going to be several army builders throughout all my predictions for this video. However, this one is from that opening sequence in The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a figure that has already come out in the Vintage Collection line, the Imperial Remnant Snowtrooper. Hasbro has been on a roll in the Black Series with updating a lot of the sculpts to reflect the newer Imperial designs that we see in especially that opening sequence of the film, and the Imperial Remnant Snowtrooper is one of the last remaining notable Imperial appearances that we see in the beginning sequence. I think this would be a great army builder, and at the very least I hope that Hasbro goes with the exposed face mask version as opposed to the Empire Strikes Back look that they usually go with. I would like to see ideally both versions included in the box to give a little bit of customization if you want a troop build. Keeping theme with the Mandalorian and Grogu here, I'm gonna go with a multi-pack for the next one here, that being obviously Embo, and I believe it's pronounced Kaibu or Kibu. We got the name of Embo's dog in this movie via a Funko Pop that was recently revealed that features both of the characters. Obviously, in some of the final trailers leading up to the release of the film, we got to see Embo in the flesh on screen, and in the movie, he was an absolute aura farmer. Every moment of every scene he was in, I was captivated by him. I thought he was a very faithful and authentic translation to live action from his animated design from the Clone Wars. I would love to see this character, of course, with his furry companion in action figure form. The original Embo action figure from the animated Clone Wars line back in the day was one of my favorites of that entire line, and because of how good that figure was back in the day, I have faith that Hasbro will be able to give a really nice action figure look for Embo's live action version. Making this a combo pack, I do expect it to be a little bit higher in price, maybe closer to like the $45 range, which is their typical build-up pack price. The companion, I would hope, would also be somewhat articulated. I'm not expecting the most articulation ever from Kibu, but I do hope that there is more than less. Now, one of my last predictions for The Mandalorian and Grogu, we will return to it in some of my later predictions, but one that I think is well overdue. I think it's time to be hashtag calling for Carson with Carson Teva in his Adelphi Rangers look. We all got trolled by the actor who plays Carson Teva. He said before the movie came out that he was not going to be in the film, and then to many people's pleasant surprise, he showed up and even had a speaking line when the Adelphi Rangers attacked the palace on Nal Hutta. It was really cool to see him once again, and this makes it, in my opinion, even more of a necessity to have this character as a figure in the Mandoverse display. He's shown up in multiple seasons of The Mandalorian and played a pretty major supporting role in the latter seasons of that series. We've also seen him in the Ahsoka series, and now seeing him in the film as well, I think it would be a disservice to not have this gentleman in Black Series form, especially as well we have another version of him in the TVC line. So once again, guys, I'm going to be hashtag calling for Carson, and you better believe that I'm going to be starting that hashtag when the fan stream is going on. Now, moving away from The Mandalorian and Grogu, because usually if Hasbro does a fan stream, they don't just stick it all to the same media. I feel like if they were going to make all of these reveals Mando and Grogu focused, it would have been some sort of pre-recorded video that was released at random on their YouTube channel, as opposed to a larger fan stream live event. So because of that, I feel like there are going to be a few other reveals sprinkled in from some legacy media. One of these reveals that isn't necessarily from legacy media, however, is another troop builder, and it is something that has shown up on some rumor lists as of late, and that is the TK Trooper. Much like Carson Teva, I feel like the TK Trooper is a pretty big hole that's missing in the Black Series line as far as character representation goes. We see dozens of TK Troopers throughout the Bad Batch where they were first introduced. We see them in Tales of the Underworld. We saw them in Maul Shadow Lord. I think it's about time we get this troop builder into the Black Series line. It would really help to flesh out this time period that the animated series seemed to be fleshing out more and more. I'll keep the theme with troop builders for another prediction here. This one is going to be the Galactic Marine. Now, I know some people might be feeling a little bit of fatigue after we just had, I think, 4 new clone troopers revealed earlier this month on the last Hasbro Star Wars fan stream, but I feel like the Galactic Marine is a clone trooper that many Star Wars collectors would want, and especially seeing how he's performed in this year's and last year's March Madness Order 66 edition. In 2025, the Galactic Marine was the champion of the entire fan poll, and in this year, he took second place, losing out in the finals to the Kashyyyk Troopers. Hasbro does pay attention to the fan polls and the results of them as well, so I think Hasbro has definitely had enough time to get this figure into development and maybe get him out there. I think he's also a very logical next step for the line after Ki-Adi-Mundi was recently released a year or two ago, and then of course last year we also had Commander Bakara. This character would help complete this scene, and I think it's definitely another troop builder that a lot of collectors would be excited about. And then finally, as far as Black Series reveals go, my last prediction here is going to be Rada the Hutt, a big fig, if you will. I did predict him for the Vintage Collection line earlier this month, but I think that as far as the Black Series goes, this being a character-focused line and seeing just how big of a role Rada played in the movie as opposed to what we thought he was going to be, which was kind of like a blink and you miss it little cameo, I'm thinking that Hasbro will definitely be making him for the Black Series line. This might be their big reveal for this fan stream as well. Because of the size of the character, I would expect that he'd be probably closer to the $50 or $60 range. I hope that he comes with some really cool accessories, and I really hope that his detail matches up with what we saw in the movie. Rada absolutely stole the show for me with The Mandalorian and Grogu, so I would absolutely be picking this figure up. And then of course I have my wild card predictions. These are one that I think are much less likely to happen, but I love throwing them out into the ether with every single Star Wars fan stream. The first one, obviously, guys, Papa Pong, Ping Pong Krell. You guys knew he was coming. If you watch these prediction videos, I bring him up every single time. He's definitely a character that I think most collectors would absolutely freak out if they saw revealed on a fan stream. And I want to add too, I think he's a lot more realistic now of a logical next step with the AT-RT being revealed earlier this month with that 501st ARF Trooper. A lot of the solicitations for that release are on Umbara as the backdrop in the diorama area. So I think that Pong Krell is a very logical next step to kind of keep theme and keep some synergy with this release. And then finally, my most wanted figure in Black Series, Vintage Collection, Hot Toys, you name it, it's Dirge. You've heard me drone on and beat the dead horse about Dirge time and time again on Blitz Transmissions, so I'm not going to go into why I think we need him in the line. He's the Swiss Army knife of bounty hunters. You guys know he'd be big, intimidating, super cool, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And with that, that's going to conclude my predictions for the Black Series. So let's move move into the line that I've been very invested in as of late, that being the Vintage Collection. So my first prediction here is going to be cheating a little bit. I did predict it earlier this month for the Vintage Collection line, and technically at this point it's been leaked. If you want to see the images, go check out the Blitz Transmissions Discord, link in the description below. But I'm still going to predict it because I'm almost positive it's going to get revealed at the Fanstream. It's the Phase 1 Clone Troopers 4-pack. This is a pack that, from what we've heard and what we've seen in the renders that were shown when the HasLab Republic gunship was first released, that is going to be on an updated sculpt, meaning that they are removing the Tamara Morrison head that's underneath the removable helmet and replacing it with just that one solid helmeted head, which is much more proportionate to the rest of the body. If you guys know how invested I've been in the Republic gunship campaign, then it should come as no surprise to you. I plan to pick up many of these clone troopers over the course of the next couple of years to flesh out the diorama that I'm going to build with my gunships. I hope that Hasbro continues to do more army builder sets to complement the Battle of Geonosis. And speaking of the Battle of Geonosis, our next couple of predictions for the Vintage Collection are going to be sticking with that program that was made to support the release of the Republic gunship for 2026. At the last Hasbro Star Wars fan stream earlier this month, we had the Geonosian Warriors army builder set revealed, and we are now more than likely going to have the Phase 1 Clone Troopers set revealed. I would love to see another Separatist 4-pack revealed, or even if it's put on a single card, I think that would work as well. It is the Super Battle Droid. The Super Battle Droids are a lot more plentiful than I think people realize, especially when you go to the animated shows like the 2003 Clone Wars Micro Series or the 2008 Clone Wars show, where these guys are in some cases more predominant than the standard B1 battle droids. I think that this is a figure that definitely needs an update in the 3 3/4 scale, and it's really been a long time since one has been released. I think there's also a lot of reuse opportunity for Hasbro, because we know Hasbro, especially when it comes to the Vintage Collection line, they're very focused on maximizing reuse potential, and we saw in The Mandalorian and Grogu that there were several of the mercenary droids that were almost entirely made up of the parts of a B2 Super Battle Droid. So that alone would give two opportunities for Hasbro to use the new tooling necessary for this figure to get it out more than once. Moving on to another prediction that would tie right in with the Battle of Geonosis, it would be Grandmaster Yoda from the prequel trilogy. I think Yoda would be one of the most obvious choices for the Battle of Geonosis, as since what they seem to be focusing on is that first scene where the Republic gunships land in the middle of the Geonosis arena, Yoda is on the lead gunship, and he has several speaking lines in the arena while that whole sequence is playing out, all the cool action, him telling the Jedi to get on, telling the troopers to "Around the survivors, a perimeter create." So I think it's pretty obvious that Yoda should come out as part of the Battle of Geonosis. This is another figure that could desperately use an update in the Vintage Collection line, and it would be a welcome addition for many collectors. Now, moving away from the Battle of Geonosis, as much as I would love to just talk about that forever and always as the prequel and Clone Wars kid that I am, let's jump back to The Mandalorian and Grogu, with the first prediction being, again, much like the Black Series, an Embo and Kibu release. I have this weird feeling like the Vintage Collection won't include Kibu and they'll just do Embo, which I'd be fine with begrudgingly, but obviously I think myself and most collectors would prefer if Kibu was included with this pack. Embo's first action figure appearance, as I said earlier in this video, came from the Clone Wars animated line, so I think it would be super cool to see if Hasbro updates or improves on the figure design with the Vintage Collection version, which is really the definitive 3 3/4 line. Embo would be one of the most no-brainer pickups I've ever had for the Vintage Collection. With as many figures as I've been picking up from that line as of late, this is probably one of the ones that I would be most excited about. Another prediction from The Mandalorian and Grogu would of course be Zeb Orrelios, and I'm gonna go with his blue jumpsuit version, just like I predicted earlier this month. That's the outfit that we see him predominantly wearing for most of the film, and I think that for the Vintage Collection this would probably end up being a deluxe release, mainly because the Rebels version that they released was on a deluxe packaging, at least the deluxe version that they single packed for wide distribution, not necessarily the one they included with the Ghost HasLab a few years ago. I do think that this is a figure that is very necessary from this movie. He's not the one that I personally would be most excited about, but he's a pretty big supporting role in the film, and he comes in and out several times throughout the movie, so I think it makes a lot of sense to put him out. Now, one of my last predictions for the Vintage Collection is going to be a little bit of a Hail Mary. Again, we're going to jump back to some legacy media here. I feel like the Vintage Collection could really use a new droid general to go with a lot of these new Separatists that we're going to be hopefully getting soon, and I'm going to go ahead and jump out on a limb here. I'm going to predict the Vintage Collection is going to get a new and improved General Grievous. The droid general is, to me, a no-brainer pick and is a very logical next step going with a lot of the Battle of Geonosis releases. While we haven't necessarily seen too many droid army reveals yet for the Battle of Geonosis, I know that there are definitely some coming, and I think that a great figure to lead your Separatist forces would be Grievous. And you might be asking, Tommy, how does this really make sense with the Battle of Geonosis? That's why I didn't necessarily lump this in as a Battle of Geonosis reveal, but a lot of Star Wars gamers will remember that Battlefront 2 2017 released one of its most major content updates, that being the Battle of Geonosis, and one of the big highlights of that big content update was the new reveal of a playable villain in the game, that being General Grievous. So because of that, Grievous does in that way coincide heavily with the Battle of Geonosis and at least the scenery of that planet. So in that way, and again, on top of the fact that he leads a lot of the battle droids that we'll hopefully be seeing getting revealed throughout the remainder of 2026, I think it just makes a lot of sense to put him out in a more definitive, highly articulated version for the Vintage Collection. With how good TVC has gotten with their articulation, sculpting, engineering of their figures, I think that they could really do a General Grievous well, and I think now is the best time to put one out. Especially, and this also kind of helps to build my case for a new General Grievous figure, we did get that new Episode 3 Utapau Obi-Wan that came in that Walmart exclusive 2-pack with that Airborne to 12th Trooper, so I think again, it makes a very logical next step to put General Grievous back out into the line. And of course, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna beat the dead horse. We're gonna go with my wild cards here. The first, of course, Pong Krell. Now, I will say Pong Krell has a much stronger case for the Vintage Collection than he does the Black Series, mainly because Pong Krell performed very well multiple times in the SWTVC March Madness bracket. Pong Krell was the winner of the bracket 2 years ago, and he took second place in 2026's version of the bracket as well. So much like I was saying with the Galactic Marine, I think just with the results of fan polls alone, it makes a lot of sense for Hasbro to put out Pong Krell, and I think putting him out in the Vintage Collection first would be kind of a nod of respect to the Vintage Collection community, because man, the Vintage Collection community is probably one of the most passionate communities out there in the entire action figure world, and I think the community definitely deserves that kind of a win. And then finally, Dirge. You knew I was going to say it. I'm really not even going to reiterate it anymore. Dirge is my last wildcard prediction. But with that, guys, let me know what you thought of my predictions for this upcoming Hasbro Star Wars fan stream on Tuesday, May 26th at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Once again, I will be live streaming at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time with Alexander Storm from Shadow Nose Network. We'll be covering all of the reveals as they happen live. We'll be watching along with you guys, and then as soon as the fan stream ends, we'll do a recap. We'll cover everything again, maybe take a closer look at all the figures in the order in which they were revealed, and of course we'll be interacting with you guys in the chat. So make sure to check out that live stream. You can find it right now. It's up, it's ready to go, scheduled on the Blitz Transmissions YouTube channel. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this predictions video. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this video early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, you get to check out all my reviews early here on the channel. You get exclusive badges, priority replies in the comments section, and of course some other cool benefits as well. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you can check out the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you for the Hasbro Star Wars fan stream, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick your target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?